Well, at 20 minutes to 5, we can now say the decision taken in 1975 by this country to join the common market has been reversed by this referendum to leave the EU. We are absolutely clear now that there is no way that the Remain side can win. It looks as though the gap's going to be something like 52 to 48, so a 4-point lead for leaving the EU. And that's the result of this referendum, which has been preceded by weeks and months of argument and dispute and all the rest of it. The British people have spoken, and the answer is, we're out. Laura.
Well, so rare that a country, as individuals, we get the chance to take a decision as big as this. This was the most profound question we had been asked for decades as a nation of voters. And we have answered it with a vote against the status quo, against political expectation, against the traditional political rules that in Britain voters tend to go with what they're told is their economic self-interest. Instead, people have decided to defy those conventions, defy the expectations of Westminster, defy all the advice from experts, big business, economists and the like, and vote to leave the European Union. And this is a vote that has huge consequences, not just for our country, but also implications for a whole continent. And it unleashes a period of huge uncertainty, maybe huge opportunity, but also maybe huge risks too.
And the immediate results, Kamal Ahmed has been following. What are the financial markets saying?
Well, David, I think this has come as a shock to the financial markets. We were seeing the pound at 10 o'clock last night at record levels for 2016. It has now hit lows not seen since 1985. That is how much the markets are concerned about this decision for Britain to leave the European Union.
Pound is what now to the dollar?
It's down at 134, 135.
How did it begin the evening?
And it started at $1.50, so it's lost 15 cents today. It's fallen over 10%.
What
in
about
currency
stock market
David,
figures? Is there anything there?
Well, in currency terms, David, that is astonishing. That type of volatility is higher than in the financial crisis of 2008, when Britain crashed out of the European exchange rate mechanism in 1992. On the stock markets, the Nikkei in Japan, obviously the Asian markets are open at the moment. The Nikkei in Japan is down 3%. This is really a global issue. It just adds to this notion of global uncertainty around. And also that the euro has weakened significantly against the dollar. So clearly, not only is this a UK issue, but this is a euro area issue as well. Because what will the ramifications be when Britain leaves? What will that mean for the other European Union economies, the possibilities of other referendums? But just as Laura says, you know, Britain has made a decision that has sort of reversed that old famous phrase by the Clinton aide, it's the economy stupid when it comes to issues of elections. People have said they don't care what they've been told about the economy, what the reaction may or may not be.
You may just have a different view on the economy from the experts.
Or they may have a different view. And
like
I think,
Steve
frankly,
Hilton,
as well,
they may believe it's going to be better.
Well, I think as well, David, I think a big point which I think has been underestimated by what might be described as the establishment. In 2008, nobody predicted, or very few people predicted, that people might not be able to go to their ATM and get out their own cash out of a bank. I think that really produced a complete disconnect between the public and the people so-called in charge. And I think that is still running now, because if economists tell you A, B and C is going to happen, but in 2008 they couldn't guarantee you could get money out of your bank, well, why listen to them?
Do you think there'll be emergency measures taken by the Chancellor or by the Bank of England this morning to stop a run on sterling, for instance? Are there measures they should or could take?
I am sure that the Bank of England will be considering now what statements they need to make to the markets before the markets open in London in the next 3 hours. And
will the markets open? Will the market open in London, or can the stock market be closed?
They will do. They will do. I mean, we will see the FTSE's futures, which is an index which predicts which way the FTSE is going to go when it opens, is down 8% at the moment. It would be, although we are in uncharted territory, it would be remarkable if the London market did not open. You can, of course, suspend trading if the volatility is so high and the initial fall is so deep. That decision can be taken, and it will be for the Treasury and the Bank of England to come together to talk about that. I'm sure, though, that Mark Carney, the Governor of the Bank of England, and I'm told that he is planning, this is being planned at the moment, will come out with some form of public statement. They hope to do it after the Prime Minister has spoken, to give some form of reassurance about liquidity, about financial support for banks in particular. Banking stocks are likely to be heavily hit when the markets open in London. HSBC, which is one of our biggest banks, is also listed on the Asian markets, and its share price is already falling. Why does this really matter to people? It's quite interesting. I'm getting quite a lot of tweets from businesses saying, I buy in dollars from, from suppliers from abroad, and therefore my costs are going to go up hugely because of this. So on one side, it will be bad for some businesses, but of course, if sterling falls markedly, that is very good for British exports. We've always struggled in the export market. So although economically there are pluses and minuses to what is happening, in terms of the currency, they clearly were far too complacent at 10 o'clock last night about which way this vote was going to go, and they are now desperately trying to change their position on sterling, because sterling, I'm sure, is going to have a pretty torrid time on the markets all day
and with
today.
some holidays coming along, it's not much fun for people planning to go abroad on holiday. They're going to find their pound doesn't go very far.
Those people who were queuing outside currency exchanges yesterday to buy their euros were pretty smart.
John Curtis.
Well, I think you're expressing a degree of surprise about the fact that a majority of people voted to leave, even though they were given the warnings about the economic consequences. Well, I think one thing one needs to realise is that it was only ever the case that a plurality of people, not a majority of people, a plurality of people felt that the economy would suffer as a result of leaving, and that many of the people who were saying they were going to vote for leave were just saying, look, it's not going to make much difference. Conversely, however, on the other crucial issue of this referendum, a majority of people felt that A, immigration is currently too high, and B, that leaving the European Union would result in it falling. And therefore, at the end of the day, although I think some people voted to remain despite their concerns about immigration, the immigration pool was potentially always rather greater than the economy pool. I think the other thing I would say about the financial markets, I've taken the view for quite some time that the financial markets were seriously underestimating the probability of a leave vote. The truth is, if you followed the internet polls throughout this referendum campaign, they never, ever had Remain ahead. They called it a 50-50 shot all the way through. It's also true that actually in the last 2 or 3 weeks of the referendum, the vote for Remain was clearly weakened. And in fact, once you take out some of the methodological changes that the pollsters made along the way, it's very clear, and it was clear before we opened a single ballot box, that the Leave side had actually won the campaign. There had been a clear shift towards Leave in the public opinion polls during the course of the last 3 or 4 weeks. So you put all that together, I frankly did not understand why the pound was so calm during the course of yesterday.
Thanks, John. James Reynolds joins us from Brussels. Now, I don't know whether anybody's around, whether you've had any chance to talk to anybody, James, but we'd like to know if you have.
They're all hunkering down at the moment, David. It's almost like a giant Brexit-coloured wrecking ball is about to swath its way through the Berlaymont building. So I would imagine that Eurocrats at the moment are getting ready for the day of their lives. Carl Bildt, one of the most outspoken, high-profile European diplomats, has been almost one of the only ones speaking in the last hour or so. He said that Europe now faces immediate turmoil and possible long-term uncertainty. We expect possibly the President of the European Parliament, Martin Schulz, to come out in the next few hours, and then we expect the other presidents, Donald Tusk and Jean-Claude Juncker, to speak as well. In effect now, it's over to David Cameron, because the European Council will await Mr. Cameron's informing them that he is triggering Article 50 of the European Union Treaty, which calls for 2 years of negotiations for Britain to leave.
Thanks very much indeed. Steve Hilton, let's come back to you and Chuka Umunna and talk a bit about immigration, which John said was one of the key factors in this. Chuka, you start on this. What do you think that Labour's view on immigration, now that you will be free, of course, outside the EU, what should the policy on immigration be? How would you change it?
Well, the first observation to make is I think those who have argued for us to leave the European Union have a huge expectation to meet. Because what they have said is if we leave the European Union, you get back control, as it were, and you can bring immigration down to the tens of thousands. Now, personally, I don't think they're going to be able to deliver on that. If you just take non-EU immigration, it's running at 188,000 net at the